Hi everyone, I'm Fred Womble, the servant leader for the Deacon Team Ministry here at First Missionary Baptist Church. And we'd love to hear how God is using our ministry in your lives. So if you have any questions about the sermon or just questions in general, feel free to contact us at info@fmbc-concord.org. Here at FMBC, our mission is to lead all people into a life-changing and ever-growing relationship with Jesus Christ. Again, thanks for joining us.
Because I want us to get this. I want us to get this. Now, are you at that chapter where it says, after the whole generation had been gathered to their ancestors? Do you see that on page 103? It's that third paragraph. It says, listen now, another generation. Say another generation. Another generation. Watch this now. Another generation grew up who neither knew the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. Now, that's bad enough, but here's the phrase that we're going to look at, how it travels. Look what the next sentence says. Then the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Now, you see that right there? Did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Now, flip over. You're going to go to page 104. We're going to track this statement. Now, look at the very last paragraph. Do you see that on page 104? What does it say again? The Israelites did what? Evil in the eyes of the Lord. They forgot the Lord their God. Now, going over to 105. Look at that first paragraph after the italics. It says, again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Flip on over to page 107. You see it there after the italics again? The Israelites did what? See, y'all, why would a writer, and you got to remember, this book spanned over 300 years, keep repeating a phrase such as that? Because it's important for us to understand that evil is not judged by what the culture sees. And y'all didn't hear what I just said. Evil is not judged by what the culture sees, but what God sees. And so often we minimize evil because the culture says it's okay. You want to know why your house is in turmoil and why your life is all upside down and why things are going all sideways and crazy? Because you're living in a comfort zone that's really in a furnace. You see, when the enemy has you thinking that because the culture says it's okay, what it's now saying, it doesn't matter what God says anymore. And because of that, many of us, our lives are all out of whack, and we do it, can I talk plain? Thinking that we're still worshiping God. Now, if you go back and look at all of those passages where it says that they did evil in the sight of God, it would also, after each one of them, say and. And that and would either continue what they were doing, and in all the cases, it talked about them worshiping Baal or having false worship or idol gods. And a lot of you all have idol gods. And no, y'all don't think you do. Y'all don't. Yeah. See, here's the thing. Do y'all remember when we first started? I think it was about the second week. We talked about God giving them commandments, and he gave them the 10 commandments. And what's the first commandment? I hope y'all know this one, at least. If you don't know any other commandment, I don't care if you don't know the second, third, or the fourth. Doesn't matter if you know just this one commandment, and you live by just this one commandment, it'll take care of all the rest of them. And it says that you should have no other God. So here's the thing. The defection from God isn't that we stop loving him, all right? Because if I were to ask you, watch this, how many of you love the Lord? See, that's not even a question if you love him or not. The question is, what position is he in? Yeah, is he in that first slot? See, if he's even equal with something or below something, if something comes before him, then guess what? He is either God over everything or he's God over nothing. And because we don't place him in that, we can come in here and worship him, and then we can go out and worship all the other things that we worship. And that's when you see those words, and when you're reading the Bible and you see this word Baal, that means that those were what we call local deities. Let me talk about some local deities that they had. They worshiped the god of fertility. They figured if their women were going to have children, they need to worship this god who was responsible for them having children. If they wanted to go out on the sea and fight a battle, they couldn't take their god who could only fight on dry land. So if I'm going to the battle to fight against those who had good ships and good sailors and stuff, I needed a god over the sea. And then if I needed a god to grow my crops, then I need to pray to the god who can bring down rain. Are y'all listening to me here? So now, we don't worship those kind of gods now, do we? No, come on. Yeah, everybody knows there's only one God that makes it rain, right? We know that there's only one God over the sea and over the earth, right? Yeah, but how many of us worship the God of the United States? Yeah, because... all right, let me ask you this. If they cut off your Social Security check for my seniors, how many of you going to be ticked off? Raise your hand. There you go. That's right. Look at that. Come on, be honest about it. All right. How about at your job? If they called you in tomorrow and say everybody fired, how many of you gonna be upset? You know why? Because you can't pay them gods. It's called your mortgage company. Don't y'all bow down and pay your mortgage company? Because they call you and remind how close y'all are. Y'all don't remember the agreement y'all made with them? If you don't pay, you don't stay. Yeah, and that nice piece of metal you're driving. Look at how much energy. Have you ever figured out how many hours you have to work just to pay your mortgage or just to pay your car? Most of you don't. You have to work at least 3/4 of the month just to make your house payment. Oh, that becomes a god. Why? Because it dictates what you do. Uh-oh. Can I talk plain? Pastor, I can't come out today. I got to go to work. I got these bills to pay. Children need shoes. Now, write this one down. We're not going to go there. But Matthew 6:33 says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And guess what? He says he'll add all of those things. Did you hear what I just said? God says, I'll take care of you if you put me in the first slot. Some of you are working too hard because you don't want to put God. You don't want to put him in the first spot. And like I tell you, he's not going to take the second spot. And so... he's a good father, but he's not going to be a permissive father who's going to just let you do what you want to do and get away with it. And let me just talk plain. In our culture today, we think it's okay. I know I'm about to get into trouble here. We think it's okay for old folks to act like young folks to act like old folks, married folks to act like single folks, and single folks to act like married folks. As long as everybody's consenting, it's okay. But you forgot to ask one person who and what he thinks about it. And if God is in the first spot, I don't care how much your hormones are raging. Okay, let me go back to the text. So what, here's some life advice. What can I tell you here? Our deflection from God distance us from God. Did y'all hear that? That's a life advice. Put that down. Our deflection, from God. Isn't that what I said? Yeah, our deflection, meaning the things that we do that aren't pleasing to God, distance us from God. Have you ever felt like God seemed far away, that you said, I can't get close to him? Have you ever felt like you couldn't get close to God? Come on, raise your hand. Have you ever felt that way? let me just tell you, a lot of times when you're feeling that way, there's a lot of things that can cause it. But one of the main things that can cause it is that you need to do some spiritual house cleaning. You need to take some things out of your life that is separating you from having a closer relationship with God. Can I tell y'all a secret? It won't be a secret after I tell you, because I see some folks in here who ain't going to keep it. But it's okay after I tell you, because I don't mean for it to be a secret anymore. But when I was in the military, first, some of you might know that my father's a pastor, but I didn't grow up a pastor's child. And you said, wait a minute, how was that? Well, he didn't become holy, y'all with me now, until after I was out of the house. I had a problem with that, because I was a heathen when I left. But when I came back, he was all holier than thou. I had a problem with that, because when I left, and Dad, forgive me if I'm gonna go ahead and tell your business, because they know you're right now. He's not here; he's somewhere else preaching. So he might be talking about me. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about him. But when I left, he had his feet kicked up, drinking a Pabst Blue Ribbon, watching the ball game. I couldn't wait to come home, because I went out and said, well, I didn't like Pabst Blue Ribbon. I never did like beer. But anyway, that wasn't my drink of choice, but I had a drink of choice. And we're going to keep going. I ain't going to tell you what it was, because I know you all got a drink of choice. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But anyway. So when I came home, I wanted to hang out with him, but I felt distant from him because of his holy aura. He was reading the Bible instead of watching Sports Center. Are y'all with me here? And because of that, I thought something was wrong with him. Oh, y'all didn't catch that. See, when we feel God being distant, God isn't the problem. We're the problem, because what happens is that I was doing things that I didn't want him to start asking me about. What you been doing? I can't tell you that, because I know you're not doing what I'm doing. Now, we both filled with the Spirit, but mine's gonna wear off in a little while. So distance. So if you're feeling distance from God, you need to check yourself and say, okay, what is it in my life that isn't pleasing to God? All right. Now, if you stay there long enough, look at the distress of the Israelites. Let's go back to those same pages pretty much. It starts there now. Let's start on page 104. If you go back down to that same chapter, page 104, it says the Israelites did evil in the eyes of God. Look what they did now. They forgot the Lord their God and served the Baals and the Asherahs. The anger of the Lord burned against them. Now, here's the thing. Remember we talked a couple of weeks ago, you don't want God as your enemy. You don't want to get on the bad side of God. And when you get on the bad side of God, God will let your enemies rule over you. Those who's supposed to be under your feet be the ones that have their foot on your neck. And some of the distress and stuff that you're going through now is because of the distress that you have in your life. So the distress that you have comes from God. God is trying to get your attention. God is trying to tell you that you are out of line with me. If you got a child that's misbehaving, if you keep letting them misbehave, you're the one that's doing the child wrong. So God has to chastise us when we have been disobedient. We don't like to talk about that side of God. We always want God to be loving and kind and so caring for me and give me what I want. We want a Disneyland God. In fact, we actually want God to have what we call, what is when you have two parents and when one live here and one live there? Co-parenting? Yeah. So we only come see God on the weekend. Or some of you on the every other week, You see him only every other week, because that's my week to go see my daddy. Next week I'll go see my other daddy, called the devil. See, when we're living outside, I'm just trying to help us, because, see, God isn't looking for some good men. He's looking for some available men. And I'm getting there, brothers, because I'm trying to help you be the deliverer. Oh, yes, Lord, help me, Holy Spirit. I want you to be the deliverer of your household. But you can't deliver your household if you're not delivered. If you're not the priest of your household, if you don't know how to keep the devil out, then there's going to be all kind of up in there. He's going to be raising you know what up in there. And can I talk plain? In any culture, if you want to oppress that culture, you take a man out. You take the man out. You take him out of his God-ordained role, and this isn't sexist, y'all. This is biblical. And then the devil knows his way in the house. And can I just talk plain again? Some of your households are in turmoil, and God is trying to rip husbands and wives apart, and you all are going at one another, and guess what? He's just sitting there in the balance, and he's looking at the children. Y'all go ahead on and split up. Y'all go ahead on and think that it's going to get better when you move out. Y'all go ahead on and think we need a little space between each other. Y'all go ahead on and think because everybody else look like they're doing okay with it, that it's okay with it. Go ahead on. Men, we got a responsibility. I know I messed up. I messed up the first time because, see, I didn't have anyone to teach me like this. If I'd known some of this stuff now, 20 years ago, ooh. Okay, that's only me. Let me. So let me give you a little life advice here. All right? Our brokenness is God's medicine for our wholeness. Oh, y'all didn't hear what I just said. Our brokenness is God's medicine for our wholeness. See, sometimes God's got to break you down. Sometimes he's got to get you to the point where you can't get up. I know because I've been there when I didn't have any more power and any more strength to help myself. I had to say, Lord, I stretch my hand to thee. No other help. No other help. When God can get you to that point in your life, that's what... Brother, we become strong when God can make us weak, when we can start thinking it's no more about me, but the God whom I serve, when I know that I got a God who sits high and looks low and has all power in heaven and on earth, then I can say, this means war. See, I can get ready to fight a battle when I know whose side I am on, when I know who I know that I know that I know that... Walk with me now, walk with me. So we've seen the deflection of the Israelites, and now we've seen the distress of the Israelites. But I'm just so glad we now see the deliverance of the Israelites. Stay on page 104. Drop down to where it says, but when they cried out to the Lord, he raised up for them a deliverer. In fact, let's go back to page... well, no, you can stay there. Yeah, I tell you, we're going over the page. There's so much stuff in here. I wish I go to page 107. Now. Do you see where it says right there, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord? For 7 years he gave them into the hand of Midianites. Do you see that? See, over and over and over. Now, 200 years have traveled since the beginning of end of Joshua's life over to where we are right now. And that cycle that we just talked about, they're worshiping other gods and they're crying out to God, has been going over and over and over again. And each time that they would get to a point where they realized that God wasn't going to accept them having another God, they would cry out to him. And that's where God needs to get us. When we really, 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 really realize that God is God, you won't serve anybody else. See, I had to get to that point. See, I always loved the Lord, but I always thought I just needed him sometimes. Anybody like that? Just figure you need him on Tuesdays or Saturdays or when you ran into a bad situation. But when God can get you to the point where you know you need him 24/7, 365, every second of every minute of every hour of every day of every week of every month of every year of every decade, when you know that you can't even go anywhere without God, then God can start delivering you. Now watch this. I know I'm running out of time, but I got to give you this here on this deliverance piece. You see there the Midianites. Now, there's a strange thing about the Midianites because they're really half brothers of the Israelites. Now, if you go back, just write this down. I think it's in Genesis, the 25th chapter and stuff. Y'all remember that brother Abraham who didn't have that Viagra, who was really good at doing what he was doing? Well, after Sarah died and had Abraham, this brother hooked up with another woman named Keturah. They had tons of children, and one of them was a Midianite. Are y'all walking with me here? So the Midianites were really their cousins. And so why is that important? Because God has to bless everything that came out of Abraham. But sometimes I can't stay that long. Let me just move on here. Now watch this. So this is really the 6th chapter of Judges that you're in. If you want to go back and read the whole story, it's one of the longest stories in the book of Judges. And I think if you really look at Gideon is probably the most important judge because he's the only one that had a face-to-face conversation with God. It said the angel of the Lord, which is really the pre-incarnate Christ, came to this brother while he was hiding in a vat, in a wine press. Now check this out. The Midianites were standing out. See, some of y'all got some Midianites in your life, and a Midianite is anything that's oppressing you, and they've got so much power against you, you don't know how to defend yourself against that power that is greater than you. Raise your hand if you got some Midianites in your life. Some of you, yes, indeed. And so those Midianites, they are oppressing you. But now, here he is trying to eke out a living. Is anybody here just trying to eke out a living? You're just trying to get by, making the best of what you can. And so they would take wheat, and when they took wheat, it was supposed to be like a rubber mallet. They would beat it out in the open on a rock. And when they beat it out on the open in a rock, all the chaff would fly all off of it. Oh, this is going somewhere. But because of the Midianites that's looking to take what you have, he had to go hide in a hole somewhere where they would really be pressing wine. He's sitting there beating out the wheat. And check this out. Now, the Bible says that while he was there, the angel of the Lord was sitting up under the tree watching. Oh, y'all don't hear what I'm talking about. See, God's sitting there watching you in all of your mess while you trying to work things out all by yourself. And God said, boy, don't you see, if you just turn around, if you stop trying to take things, if we stop trying to take things into our own hands, and sometimes you're working so hard, then I tell you, some of you just trying to beat out a living, you just, you working in a wine press trying to get wheat. Now, that's just all jacked up. Can I say that? We got guests. They tell y'all can come back. They told me I can say that. Now, watch this now. Brothers, sometimes we're trying to take care of our families. Notice what the text says with the verse that I read to you. It says, pardon me, Lord. He's just really saying, sir, because he doesn't recognize who he is and who he's talking to him. He says, how can I save Israel? He's talking about the family. He's talking about the whole family. Are you listening, man? Just one man can save a whole people if they just get with God. Now, right before that, God had told him something. God had called him a Midianite. He had called him a mighty warrior. A mighty warrior. Right after God called him a mighty warrior, he says, but how can I save Israel? Y'all didn't catch it. He says, we are the weakest clan. In fact, Manasseh was a half a tribe. So he's saying we're half a tribe. I'm in a half tribe, and I'm the weakest in the half tribe, and my family is the smallest family, and I'm at the bottom of the barrel of the smallest family. And God called me a mighty warrior. Can I just talk plain? Sometimes we got to stop looking at what we call ourselves and look at what God calls us. See, God isn't looking for some good men. God is looking for some available men. And my brothers, if you make yourself available to God, and if you start believing what God says you are, oh, y'all didn't hear me right there. See, you got to start understanding, if God says you are a mighty warrior, guess what? That's what you are. When here's your last life point. When we believe God and not ourselves, put it on up there. We become what he says we are. God's calling us, men, to be mighty warriors. Don't worry about what the world's calling you. Don't worry about it. The world says you can't be anything. Don't worry about it. The world says how you going to make it because you had a record. Don't worry about it if the world says how you going to make it because all you got is an 8th grade education. Don't worry about what the world says how you going to make it because nobody else is helping you. Don't you worry about those things. But when you know who God is, if God says you are a mighty warrior, then you can now get ready to serve notice to the enemy, and you can say, this means war. Men, we can do it, but we can't do it on our own. We need to keep our hands in the master's hands. And when we do that, God is saying, I can deliver not only your household. I don't care if you're the baby of the babies of the babies. I don't care if you're the least of the least. If I say that you are a mighty warrior, I can make you the head and not the tail. I can do that for you. That's what God is saying right now. Men, we can do it if we'll just put our hands in the master's hands. And so God took this man, Gideon. Just read the rest of the story. Gideon, though, he still was a coward. Now, let me tell you what a coward is. A coward is not one who has this isn't on the screen. You won't get this one. This is a deep one, though. Listen, brothers. Cowardness is not the inability to fight. Cowardness is not the inability to fight. It's the unwillingness to fight. So right now, my brothers, if you're willing to fight, I want you to stand on your feet right now, just my man. If you're willing to fight for your family, you are who God says you are. Oh, y'all didn't hear what I just said. The world will beat you down. If you listen to enough of the media, you won't think you're capable of doing anything. He wants your household, my brothers. Listen to me. The reason he wants to take you out, he wants your children. See, he wants that next generation. Listen to me carefully. And if you're in a household and you got some sons, there's going to be more fight in your household than any other household. You know why? Because he's looking at that next generation of men. And he knows that men are going to model men. Unless they get into a right relationship with God. Now, I want y'all, all my men, just come on forward here now. Because sometimes we feel like we're all by ourselves. Come on in tight, all the way close to the stage. Oh, and it's a good sight, my sisters. Look at this. Spread it on out. Come on, all the way over here. Come on. Look what God has blessed us with here. Come on. This is power, y'all. Now, do y'all know what we could do together collectively? I don't care where you have been in life. We each got a story. Huh? I know some of your daddies didn't do for you what you needed him to do, but guess what? You can start right now. We can raise up a new generation. Come on, raise it up, a new generation. Yes, indeed. We're a new generation. We can walk with our younger brothers. They don't have to be your birth children. If you see a young man that needs a man, we can start saving those generations right now. Right now. Right now. That's what God is calling us to do, my brothers. Some of you need to go home and ask your spouse, forgive me. Because I've been looking at this thing from the Lord's story. I've been worried about me, myself, and I. I've been worrying about who wants me and who I want. Come on, talk to me, somebody. I'm not the only one that have been there. But when I put my hand in God's hands, He broke those shackles. He set me free. I know because I've been delivered. And that's what I want for each of you to be delivered right now. You don't have to take that back home. You can be free right now. So we aren't gonna hold hands. No, we ain't gonna, no, we gonna huddle. Put your hands around, shoulder to shoulder. We men, brother. Yes, indeed, yeah. Shoulder to shoulder. Hey! Hey! Yes, Lord! Come on and sing some of that for me. Come on, listen to this now. Listen to these words. Listen to this now. Look who we got to go to. Listen, this is the God we got to go to. Who I am. Now, ladies, y'all stand up and sing that for us now. Come on.
Hi, my name is Herb Redrick. I'm the lead pastor here at First Missionary Baptist Church. I pray that God's word touched your heart today, because our mission is to lead all people into a life-changing, ever-growing relationship with Christ. If you have a question about the ministries or the message, please contact us at admin@fmbc-concord.org. Look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.